Thank you for... I'm the one who's supposed to talk first. Damn your eyes.
It's not in my contract.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hey.
This week, we'll be discussing the horror classic Shadow of the Vampire, starring John Malkovich, Willem Dafoe. Carrie Elways pops up about halfway through. I was shocked to see.
Yeah.
Udo Kier, is that his name?
Oh, we're going to talk a lot about Udo Kier because that's really one of the best parts of the whole movie.
Good old Udo. Go ahead and go to our page on Facebook, the podcast that wouldn't die, and like, share, subscribe, let the good times roll. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcast, TWDie. You can go on to Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend.
Did you say iTunes?
That's Google that's Apple Podcasts.
Oh.
Yeah, iTunes doesn't do it anymore. If you want to download a ringtone, you use iTunes. If you want to listen to a podcast, it is Apple Podcasts.
And give us a 5-star rating. So far, it's still just me.
I haven't even done it. I'm waiting to see. I'm withholding judgment. We will see.
Judge away.
Exactly. Okay, so I had actually seen this movie, I don't know, 20 years ago.
I had no idea that it was so old because I saw it at the theater too.
I was in New Orleans waiting for my flight back to California, and I had a couple hours to kill. Popped into Shadow of the Vampire.
Because God knows, freeze right there, friend.
Freeze.
When you're in New Orleans and you're so bored, you got nothing else to do, so you go to the movies? Did you eat at McDonald's while you were there too? I mean,
I did. No car, so there happens to be a movie theater at the airport, so that's what we did. I'm not hitchhiking into the bayou or something.
I was like, did you walk to the airport? I didn't know it was so centrally located to Bourbon Street.
That's what I'm saying. I had to get a ride there, and then once you're there, you're just kind of there. It's like, what are you going to do? I guess I could have read a book or something.
All right. I guess so. Why were you at the airport so early?
I think we were just trying to catch like a last-minute flight.
Okay.
I don't know. This is 20 years ago. I'm doing my best here. For
God's
All right,
sake. I gotcha.
Exactly. I'll tell you what. I was way back then, and to a lesser extent now, I was interested in the premise behind it. I was vaguely familiar with Nosferatu back then, which I've seen. I actually saw the actual film earlier this year, coincidentally. And the premise behind it is kind of interesting. You've never seen the original Nosferatu? So you have not seen the original Nosferatu, is that correct?
I have not. I saw the Klaus Kinski remake and found it to be very slow. I saw that in college.
Well, it's like, as you know, if you didn't know any better, you quickly realize they just ripped off Dracula.
Right.
It's basically a beat by beat Dracula ripoff. And in this movie, they kind of go behind the scenes and they say, well, we tried to buy the rights from the estate of Bram Stoker, and they gave us the finger, so we just made up our own Count Orlok.
Count Orlok.
But the way that Count Orlok looked became very kind of it inspired many vampires to come with the long, crazy fingernails. He kind of looked like what Kurt Barlow did in that Salem's Lot TV
It
movie.
is true.
So, all sorts of good stuff. Very quickly, basically, the premise behind this is the 1920s in Berlin, in Germany, and
full of decadence and good times.
But, back then, Berlin could have very easily become the center of filmmaking. If it wasn't
If
for those
it
damn
wasn't
Nazis.
for unfortunate things, yes.
Yes. So, I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, they were doing their thing. So F.W. Murnau, who was a big-time director back then, decided to make his own version of Dracula. And the premise of this movie is that in, Czechoslovakia,
some of those Slovak places, right. Eastern Europe, we'll say.
Deep in Eastern Europe, he has an actor named Max Schreck ready to step in and play the titular role. Now, as we discover, spoiler alert, Max Schreck does not exist. He actually just found an old crazy vampire.
Exactly.
That lives in a haunted castle to play the role, evidently. And all he had to offer him, he kind of told him a story about how, hey, you're already immortal, but I can make you really immortal by putting you in movies, which will last forever.
No more eating rats in your dirty, stinking, dilapidated castle.
Right. So we'll give you that, and for good measure, I'll throw you. You can drink the blood of the leading lady, Greta. Who, I'm only gonna say Greta. She had a crazy German name. I don't remember what it was. Greta something or other.
Yeah.
Greta von Doofenshmirtz, as far as I know.
Dusseldorf. Doofenshmirtz.
It's something. And as I watched this movie, and people are starting to bite the dust because the angry vampire guy just has to suck people's blood from time to time, including the original cinematographer.
Apparently, when you're an old vampire, you're also a dick.
Pretty much. And I kept thinking to myself, it wouldn't have been easier just to hire an actor? Really?
He was inspired, Kevin. He was inspired. It's art.
Good times. It's like around the fifth murder. I mean, at some point, it's like surely there's just an actor you could hire, right? Throw a little makeup on.
Exactly. At this point, we've already shot most of you when things really started turning tits up. Why not we just say later and we're all out of here?
Pretty much. I mean, they were already filming half the movie on a soundstage in Berlin. Right. That uproot the entire production to the furthest reaches of Eastern Europe just to accommodate a crazy old vampire who was, again, killed the first cinematographer and insisted on eating the leading lady by the end.
So I think we can agree that basic premise makes no sense.
No. Well, it basically comes back to there was like a legend because the movie was so long ago, back in the early 20s, that Max Schreck was in fact a vampire because his performance was so haunting and blah blah blah.
And was it?
I mean, that's the question. It's a silent movie. So it's a little slow going. I mean, I enjoyed it, I guess. Moment you realize it's a silent movie for the third time, it's not bad.
Are you saying your attention deficit was in overdrive?
I was on my phone half the time. I'm not gonna lie. I was playing Candy Crush. But what's funny is because they didn't have IMDb back then, or they would have seen, hey, he acted in a bunch of other things where he wasn't a vampire. So good times. But
so you're saying definitively that you believe that Max Schreck existed and was in fact an actor.
Look, I can't vouch. I wasn't there. I can't definitively say anything.
And it was Berlin of the 20s, so there was a lot of lines being crossed.
There definitely were. I mean, if you've seen Cabaret, you know exactly what was going on back in the day.
Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome.
Those crazy Germans.
That's from Cabaret, in case you didn't know that.
One thing I have to go back. I was reading the credits at the beginning of the movie, and one name popped up as a producer.
May I guess what Please that do. Name? That is the one note I wrote down. Produced by Nick Cage.
Nicolas Cage. We should have known what we were walking in on.
Exactly. Rises from the grave.
Yeah, I kept expecting him to pop out somewhere and be like, hey, man, it's Nick Cage here.
Hey. It might have been
I'm in Germany, man.
Hey, man. Oh, yeah. That and Malkovich's fantastic German accent. And Cary Elwes. Is he British? Is he German?
Well,
we don't know.
I'll tell you what. At least Cary Elwes tried to give you a crazy stereotypical German accent where he's clicking his heels constantly.
Honestly, I thought he was like a British airman when he first landed, and then all of a sudden he slipped into a German accent. I was like, what's happening?
It's a good thing he would fly himself out to Czechoslovakia. Good times. Yeah, like he was basically the Red Baron. But you're right. Malkovich basically had, I think for like 2 seconds in the first scene, you're like, oh, he is going to do it. Oh, no, there it went. No accent.
Sadly, period pieces. I mean, Malkovich is Malkovich is Malkovich.
Yes.
Costner is Costner is Costner. Love it or leave it, because they're not slipping into some other character.
I just think he's obviously they're not Kevin Kline or Meryl Streep or somebody, but throw me a bone. You could do a little bit of a German accent, right? I mean, like Sprechen Sie Deutsch, something in there.
Yeah, except it would be Sprechen Sie Deutsch with the classic Malkovich voice.
You definitely had to deal with that, his crazy accent or lack thereof. But halfway through the movie, the two producers are sitting there. Udo Kier, who is German, and therefore does a good German accent, right next to Malkovich's crazy accent. The two producers are sitting there chit-chatting, and crazy vampire Joe, Max Schreck, sits down next to them.
I know exactly what you're going to talk about.
And it's just like,
oh my God.
He's convinced them, not by just by existing, that he's some kind of method actor, that he's Daniel Day-Lewis who has to remain in character 100% of the time, and they're like,
he invented the method. Strasberg thought they invented the method, but it was what's his name?
Max Schreck or
Max Schreck.
Yeah,
inside the actor's studio with Max Schreck,
with James Lipton, basically, right? It was, but it was like he literally snatches a bat out of the air and proceeds to eat it in front of them, and they don't even bat an eye. They're like, he's amazing. What a performance. He really commits. It's like, okay, good times. And then
the most disturbing part.
Go for it.
Is that he reaches across, grabs their big bottle of schnapps, takes a big slug off of it with just this bat blood. The bat must have been like a tick, because it literally just popped about a gallon of blood all over the place. And all I kept thinking of is now this schnapps is full of backwash. I also was wondering what flavor schnapps it was too. And so Udo Kier takes it back. He just kind of looks at it, gives it a little wipe, and takes another swig. I was like, oh, sweet Jesus. They all got the rabies now. Oh.
No, I was thinking about that as well. It's not very sanitary. Give them a napkin or something.
Exactly. Maybe they didn't understand about germs or just being disgusting in the 1920s.
Anything goes. Well, keeping in mind, this was Czechoslovakia, where it was just please.
That's right.
Have at it.
That's where they filmed Hostel. So there you go.
Right, exactly. And then you got Eddie Izzard playing the leading man and all the silence.
Oh, yeah.
It's an all-star cast, ladies and gentlemen. I mean,
oh my God.
All of this crazy mugging at the camera, because, again, I guess, it was a silent film, so you had to really emote with your face because you couldn't really speak. But there's a lot.
I love that the producer, the director is just shouting at you what to do, what to feel.
Exactly. There's a scene later in the movie where F.W. Murnau, Malkovich, is passed out in his room in like a morphine stupor.
Oh yeah, everyone's a junkie also in the 1920s.
They're all big junkies. So they, Cary Elwes and Udo Kier, go into the room to try to coax him out. It's like, hey, we've got to film this last scene, mein Herr.
Mein Doctor.
And that's when he reveals, hey guys, sorry, Max Schreck, not a method actor. He's actually an ancient vampire. And nobody blinks.
Nobody blinks.
Nobody's horrified.
They tuck him in, give him some more laudanum or whatever they were drinking all in Deadwood too. So
laudanum.
Okay. Yeah.
Not even like, hey, man, he really hit that laudanum hard. No, nothing. No confusion. No like disbelief. They just kind of like, okay, got it.
We understand. Good.
Got it.
Thanks for letting us know.
Good times. Oh, and
peace, mine hair.
Exactly. So it's like, so we're trapped on this island with a blood-sucking vampire. I guess we just got to finish filming this, huh?
That's right. We got to commit.
We really.
And the director, let me just say, tells them that he has promised the vampire the leading woman, and they just go along with it. They're like, okay, we're filming the next day. Hey, baby, just relax. Allow us to forcibly inject you with heroin or whatever.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's for the art.
So she's also a morphine addict. And the next day she's getting ready for her big scene. And allegedly she looks over in the mirror and notices that the vampire dude does not have a reflection. Although if you watch closely, right after that, you constantly are seeing his reflection.
Good eye, Brother Bear.
It happens. You see a shadow on the, you see some reflection. So she's going into hysterics. The three guys, Udo, Carrie, and Malcatron, step right in and like basically forcibly administer some morphine to get her to calm down. And she's essentially in a stupor at that point. Again,
that was very Weinstein of them. Very Weinstein.
Yeah, it was. It was.
This was no Me Too movement in 1920 Berlin.
There's usually a good German walking around and goes, "No, mein Herren, can't do it. Not this scene." They're like, "Okay, we're all on board. Sounds good."
They're like, "Let's just get off this damn island. Give the vampire what it wants."
Exactly. So, I mean, if there's no way off the island, what are they going to do when they're done filming anyway? What's their plan? I mean, they're trapped, allegedly. Although,
and what's the motivation for the vampire to not butcher them all once he gets what he wants?
Right.
Oh,
this is a good question. These are important questions. Any other reflections or thoughts or feelings about this?
Basically, we find out that Malkovich thinks that he's going to double trick the Count. The Count figures it out, sabotages the double trick-a-doodle, and he still gets killed at the end. The light hits him. There's a glorious death scene.
I mean, it was basically that was part of the deal. He wanted to get the scene where Count Orlok sucks the girl's blood, and then a curtain's supposed to be thrown, and then he wanted to film Count Orlok turning to dust or whatever it is.
Yeah, she's supposed to seduce the vampire and keep him there until the sun comes up, with the idea that then that'll roast him. But previously, the vampire had said, "You can't kill me. I don't even know how to kill me." But apparently he did.
Yeah. He's like, "How will you kill me if I do not know how to kill myself?"
Yeah.
I have to say, Willem Dafoe, not bad.
Not bad. I bet that was a fun role to play.
Yeah, I'm
sure. I bet the makeup sucked, though, but I bet that was fun. Just all you had to do is wander around and be creepy.
Right. Well, he had those long, crazy fingernails are all
dirty. Yeah, he's clicking them together. Yeah. Oh, they're all chipped and brown and yucky.
Now,
I mean, go ahead. I was going to say, I remember, I was the one who recommended this, and I remember liking this a lot more, apparently 18 years ago. Apparently, tastes have changed.
Well, it's kind of your typical kind of, it's almost a Stephen King kind of thing where the premise is dynamite and the story starts strong, and then it's just like, now what? How do I
think Malkovich was high on the wave of being John Malkovich. Yeah. Everybody loved Malkovich. He, everything he touched was gold. He's got a bunch of his wacky friends together. Let's make this film, blah, 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 blah. And we were all in on the tongue-in-cheek stuff. But now, 20 years later, I don't think it holds up. That's my 2 cents.
Well, again, it's a good premise. The idea is good, but very quickly you kind of realize we don't know where to go. We don't know how to end this in a satisfactory fashion that doesn't seem totally bizarre. Because it's like we said, at the end of the day, there's really nothing that the vampire guy brings to the table. That, I mean, it's not like they've filmed him becoming a bat or anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
He
was just creepy.
Right. But literally, the makeup girl tries to put makeup on him, and John Malkovich is like, "No, you get no makeup." He's like,
Schweinhund.
He says, "But I would like some makeup. Mine hair." Now everybody's mine hair, as far as I'm concerned. And he said, "No, you get no." It's like, okay. I mean, maybe the budget was tight. It's like we just can't afford it. Can't afford to have makeup. It's very upsetting. So
yeah, I think the problem is they tipped their hat to he's a real vampire right at the beginning. There should be a little bit of mystery. I know they wanted to make it kind of like a little comedic and strange, but I think there should have been a little more drawn out where we're like, are we sure? Are we not sure? But it was bang. He's a real vampire.
Well, yeah, it was like literally their first night there. The first cinematographer, Wolf, is like already getting his blood sucked. Day one. It's like, I think you get back on the boat at that point. You know, I don't think you have to finish filming here. We can go back to the soundstage.
And Malkovich kept threatening him. Threatening him to do what? What's he going to do? You going to fight him? How are you going to fight him?
That's what I was thinking. It's like
you're gonna get like pestilence from his just cracked old fingernails. Now, the plague lives in his cuticles. I don't know.
Clearly. Is this even a horror movie? That's my question. Is this a horror movie, or is it's like a drama, frankly?
I wouldn't say it's I think it's up there with like the Brothers Grimm or whatever, where it's a
horror. So it's a piece of crap? Is that what you're talking?
I think I said that earlier now. It's a hormedy.
But without the scares and without the
copyright. Exactly.
Interesting.
It's a hormedy.
It's the worst of both worlds.
It's a boring horror comedy. How about that? It's a hormedy. Also copyright.
This is now. The other ones had moments that you would say this is genuinely a creepy moment or generally a scary moment. I'm not sure this movie had any of those.
No.
But I don't think it was trying to. I think it was more kind of like, this is kind of interesting, is what they were going for, rather than
it's an interesting idea. Let's play it out. Oh, it landed flat. Okay.
Right. Now, if they could have gotten Nicolas Cage to run around in there, then we're talking a whole different movie. I'd be in at that point.
I want to see Nick Cage with his fake British German accent. Why wasn't he cast in like Inglourious Basterds?
Why not?
Why not?
He should be cast in everything, as far as I'm concerned.
Now, I think we need to deep dive Udo Kier.
Lay it on me.
All right. So he first, I want to say he lives in Palm Springs.
Oh, no.
Second, I first became aware of him in high school when I saw Andy Warhol's Frankenstein, also released as Flesh for Frankenstein, because I went to a high school that just took us to random movies. So my high school took me to this rated X movie where Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein, Udo Kier, brings the monster to life based on, first the monster was chosen for his libido power. And the way they brought him to life was not hooking him up to electrodes, but instead Udo Kier through the
probably
sutures.
More than I need to know.
Through the sutures. There's also an Andy Warhol's Dracula, which Udo Kier may be into, but I just made that up. So Udo, there's that. So I immediately recognized his face this time. I was like, I know this dude. But then I couldn't see Andy Warhol's Frankenstein. I found this Flesh for Frankenstein. Italians, of course. They're the people who brought us, remember that horrific movie Zombie.
Of course.
Let's blame all the, and which will not be on our list because I still have nightmares from that movie.
Lucio Fulci.
Oh, Madonna. That was so disturbing.
Yeah.
Udo Kier is also in the Dario Argento classic Suspiria.
Oh, is he really? Okay.
And for all our listeners out there, I just want you to know that I requested Suspiria versus the new Suspiria, and Kevin has blacklisted it.
I've not I just don't want to do an all Suspiria episode. If you can compare and contrast.
It's Suspiria all the time. And by the way, our icon in the front is a Suspiria reference, because in the movie everything's shot with like a red or a blue filter, because that's how you did it back in the day.
It's a classy move.
It's a classy move.
Udo Kier, in my recollection, he's just always the kind of creepy German dude, but creepy and kind of like is he a Molestino kind of creepy?
He's got that edge.
He's got a little, right. That's all I know him from. But I mean, he's been in a ton of stuff.
He's the hardest working man. He was born in 1944 during the war. I was reading this thing. A bomb went off in the hospital when he was being born. They had to dig out his parents from the rubble.
Lovely.
But he is working right to this minute. He's got stuff coming out this year. Hardest working man. Hardest working man in show business.
Hardest working man in Dusseldorf, at least.
or in Palm Springs.
Or Palm Springs. Good Lord. Any last thoughts on this immortal classic?
Yeah, we're not exactly bebopping and scatting all through this. I literally have 2 notes. Produced by Nick Cage, and then 5 lines on Udo Kier. Those are the only notes I took on this. So, check it out if you're a hardcore Malkovich, Udo Kier fan.
I mean, I think if you've seen the original Nosferatu, it might have some kind of, that's kind of interesting. You and I both, in order to see it, we had to, take the free trial of the
Tribeca
channel.
Amazon is such a scam. First of all, one, there are no movies you actually want to watch with your Amazon Prime. 2, half the movies you're willing to pay for, they scam you by forcing you to sign up for one of their additional subscription services. So you can't actually just give them money. They want a subscription for your lifetime. So right. I immediately subscribed and unsubscribed in 30 seconds.
That was me as well. I subscribed long enough to watch this show, and then I parachuted out of there. I'm out.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks for nothing.
Thanks for nothing.
Good times had by Al. Moving right along. So thank you for joining us. Don't forget to go to Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die and like it and share it. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcast TWDie. I have to have that crazy name because the initials TPTWD were already taken. So that's why. And The Podcast That Wouldn't Die is too long for Twitter, evidently. So
they're racist against us. I hate them.
Don't forget to go on Spotify or Google Podcast or Apple Podcast.
So I have to stop telling people to go to iTunes. I need to stop that.
If you say iTunes, I think people will figure it out. But yeah, it doesn't exist. I mean, iTunes exists, but it doesn't exist for podcasts. There you have it.
But it's important that you rate it. Otherwise, no one will listen to us. And send us messages on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Give us some suggestions of movies that you would like to see. We're kind of sticking with the horror sci-fi genre. I think we may be recording Alien when I go off to Area 51. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
We're pretty easy in terms of the types of movies we choose. If there's something you're dying for us to do, I think we're down with it for the most part. For the most part, Aaron. Not every G thing that rolled across the pike. So there you have it. Thank you for joining us. And,
Arrivederci, people.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Willkommen, bienvenue.